Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of One Vision, the FinTech Fuse. This is Theo, and joining us today, back a regular friend, is Julie Muhn from Finovate, otherwise known as, you do speaking engagements in Finovate and beyond. You do a lot of interviews for guests. You've done keynotes at FinTech events, and you also write for Finovate blog. Right. And you've been around, if I think about FinTech OG, you are definitely one of those that came to mind from a long time ago. So thank you so much for joining me back on the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about our topic today.
Oh, yes. This is so all of you guys listening is in for a treat. I had not done something like this for a very, very long time, and I'm very excited. So I do joke often when I think about Walmart, I think about Julie. When I think about Julie, I think of Walmart. Not like in any weird way, but it's because, Julie, you talk a lot about Walmart and why it's important for us in financial services to pay attention to. And that's why I just put the two together. And with everything that's going on, I thought it would make sense to bring you on the show and help us do a deep dive on how Walmart has transpired in their journey and why we really, really need to pay attention in the upcoming AI-led agentic commerce era and beyond.
Exactly. Yeah. Walmart has changed a lot and they're moving really quickly. And I think about Walmart a lot, probably more than most people and way more than I should. So I'm excited. I never get to talk about Walmart like in that depth, in this much depth. So this will be fun. And it's super informative. It's not only about merchants and retailers, but it's also informative for banks and financial services as well.
Very much so. So let's start with when I think about Walmart, right? So I moved to this country 30 something years ago. And I remember when I looked at Walmart, I looked at the logo and I look at the stores. It's always big, it's huge. There's tons of stuff in there. It's loaded with things. So when I equate to Walmart, I think about big box retailer. I think about a lot of things for people to shop for. And in particular, I think about the demographics that they serve, which is mass market, middle America. Now, fast forwarding that image of Walmart to now is more than just retail, right? So walk us through, what else does Walmart do?
Yeah, so let's start actually all the way back in 2005, which is when I was still in high school. But that is when a lot of people don't know this, but that's when Walmart essentially first applied to become a bank. So they applied for a Utah Industrial Loan Corporation, an ILC charter in 2005. They were shut down, but that kind of gave us an early indication of Walmart's ambitions outside of simply becoming a retailer. And since then, we've seen e-commerce explode. We've seen digital markets explode. And so to answer your question, as far as what else does Walmart do besides, selling groceries, selling diapers and goods, they have essentially gone into selling services as well. So post 2020, Walmart really started to build out its mobile app to become that high frequency use case that gets users to log in multiple times a week, if not, sometimes on a daily basis. So it's where consumers go. And again, they are targeting mostly middle America consumers. It's where they can get their groceries, pharmacies. They started selling phone plans as well. They sell toys, tires. They have delivery services, obviously similar to Amazon. Let's see that they also have clinics, so you can have like urgent care needs taken care of virtually. Travel services, so similar to like an Expedia, you can book your travel through Walmart. Automotive services, photo services, pet services. They have a retail media network. And the biggest piece here is, the most relevant piece perhaps, is OnePay, which is Walmart's financial services app that it started building out. It launched in 2021 and then started building it out after they acquired two fintechs. One was called Even, the other was called One. They acquired those in 2022. And since then, Walmart's been really busy building out that financial services app via partnerships. So last year it announced it was going to be adding Pay by Bank through a partnership with Fiserv. It has a credit card program that it launched in partnership with Synchrony Financial and MasterCard. BNPL, Buy Now Pay Later, powered by Klarna. Stock and ETF investing, which hasn't launched yet, but that'll be in partnership with Drive Wealth. And also crypto trading and custody, which also hasn't launched, but that'll be in partnership with Zero Hash. So it's really becoming, again, this like all-in-one, all-inclusive app where you can get many of your financial services needs taken care of, but also a lot of your personal needs as well. Anything that relates to your family, your home. They have home repair, like appliance installation services as well that you can get through Walmart. So that's what they're building out. So it's not just retail and it's not just financial services, but it's a lot more than that, that's what makes it exciting for me.
I am bugged. I had no idea. So as you're talking, right, I'm thinking through all of these places that we use typically. You mentioned all of the services that we typically procure through Amazon, CVS, Expedia, PetSmart, Home Depot, right? So all of these big brands that we typically go to for one sliver of our day-to-day needs, I guess, for lack of better words, you can get all of that in Walmart.
Yeah, I mean, and not in every single location, right? So if you're in rural America, they're not going to have every single service. But yeah, they have a lot of them have, vision care services within, and haircut, you get your haircut there, you get your Subway sandwich in Walmart. It's
okay. And Starbucks. I mean, why not, right? So now you just add a Target on top of it. Okay. What don't they do? Maybe I should have started with that.
Yeah, I know. Maybe that'd be easier. So when you think about a super app, which is, we don't have a super app in the US, but super apps, so I like to think of super apps as having 11 elements, and I'm curious to get your take on this. So social, e-commerce, food delivery, transportation services, personal finance, travel services, bill pay, health services, insurance, government and public services, and now LLM, so integration with an LLM. So is that because you have more experience with super apps?
Yeah, I would say definitely. So when we think about it's a lot of messaging. It's a platform. So we like to look at it as like adding Facebook and Instagram elements to it, right? So it's somewhere that people exchange ideas, people talk to each other. That's also why they have such a big mass of people, right? We look at the super apps in Asia, and also ride hailing. So when we think about travel, we look at, for example, Grab and Gojek. That's how they started, was from the Uber-like model. And that's how they branched out to the SMEs. So a lot of the super apps that we see out in the Far East, they have the social element, and then they have the not just serving consumers, but also serving small business elements. Those are the two I would say I don't think I've seen in Walmart here.
Yeah, definitely not a social element. And the only travel element that Walmart offers is like travel booking, services. So like booking a flight, but you can't book an Uber or anything. Not yet.
Yeah. Not we're giving them ideas. Not yet. But yeah, by and large, apart from those two, right? What about P2P? Can they do payments to each other?
No P2P payments within Walmart. And that is actually like the number one thing I think that disqualifies Walmart as a super app as we think of traditional super apps, is that when you have a super app, it usually interfaces with government service rails, or most merchants accept that payment.
Yes.
So I cannot go to Target and pull up my OnePay app on my phone and pay through that. That's not going to work. And Walmart doesn't, that I know of, have external retailer partnerships that you can pay via the OnePay app. Even though it's OnePay app, it does have like a digital wallet. So I have multiple of my cards loaded in the OnePay app, so that when I go to pay at Walmart, which is the one and only place I can pay using that, I can choose which card to pay with. But yeah, it doesn't interface with it. Obviously, in the US, we don't have government payment rails like UPI or Pix.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't interface with other retailers. So that kind of is, and that won't happen in the US because of, you know, regulatory issues, and also just our culture in the US. We don't want a single payment rail because we don't trust the government to give us a single payment rail, which says a lot about our government. I don't know. So
Yes, yes. Although, you know, the way that all of you were thinking about stablecoin, I remember our last conversation, stablecoin and wallet, that could change. But no, I hear you. Um, that is fascinating. I absolutely did not know that they were trying to apply for a bank license all the way back in 2005. Today, in the evolution that you've been tracking them, right, for more than a decade now, did they have any specific like roadmap from a perspective of this is the area that we want to branch out and this is why we want to do what we do, or it's just kind of like they just keep piling on?
so they haven't, as far as I know, they haven't publicly, you know, announced any sort of roadmap, but it's easy to put together the pieces of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Having been doing this for 15 years and watching fintech companies and financial services companies evolve, it's easy to kind of put that together and see where they're going. And this arc seems to lead to agentic commerce, which they launched a partnership with ChatGPT earlier this year to make essentially in-app purchases with ChatGPT specifically. I haven't heard of any other LLMs that they've integrated with. But similarly, just as we've seen Amazon make all of these agentic commerce like land grabs, Walmart is very quietly doing a similar thing,
Mm-hmm.
except they're doing it, they're kind of building up the base first, and then they're going to start making the land grab. So by that, I mean, they're building up their platform. So just like we were talking about, they're building their platform into becoming, you know, the first place where a consumer thinks of, what a consumer wants to interact with, so that by the time we get to AI agents acting on behalf of consumers, that's where the AI agents are going to go first to make those transactions, to get those products and services. So essentially being that high frequency use case, that high frequency platform that agents will go to primarily for a lot of consumer needs.
And they have 200 something million customers, right? I remember it
Yeah,
was a pretty crazy high number. I mean,
it,
they are huge compared to second after Amazon, if I
so
remember.
I think they have, so what I see is 100 million weekly shoppers. I don't know if that's digital and in person or if that's just in person.
That's
And
still a
their
lot of
OnePay
people.
app has 3 million monthly active users, which is pretty surprising because you don't really hear about OnePay. Like we hear about
No.
Nubank, obviously,
Yeah.
and then, you know, we hear a lot about Chime and all these
Hmm.
other ones, but OnePay we don't really hear about. I think because it's servicing those, you know, lower income consumers, maybe. I
Hmm.
don't know. I don't know why it's not exciting to people, but I find it interesting.
I find it interesting too because precisely what you say, right? Is brand loyalty, is stickiness. And in our industry, we always talk about we want people to keep coming back to your app. We want people to be sticky, to be loyal to your brand. And I mean, that's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Exactly.
interesting.
Yeah. And, you know, for banks, when they think about trying to achieve that stickiness, they don't have that many use cases. They're pretty limited. You know, they can get
Hmm.
consumers when they're trying to open up an account, when they want to get a loan for, you know, a car or a house or a personal loan, when they want to check their balances, or, you know, some of them have PFM services. So that would be slightly higher frequency. And then also receiving their paycheck, getting paid. So they're fairly limited. Whereas a Walmart like platform, whereas it's not a bank, it can, you know, it entices customers to log onto that app with higher frequency because of all those use cases, not just groceries, but all the services as well.
Oh, definitely. And, you know, and like you say, right, you know, if people do go to the store and they do pay with the app, they definitely will be using the app. They'll be checking in to see what other things I might need. You talked about healthcare, you talked about, you know, deliveries, you talked about travel, you talked about mobile. I didn't know about mobile either. So there are so many different facets of life that I can see use cases of people interacting. with the app. It almost seems like from a money movement perspective, it's a secondary, right? It enables them to do all the other high frequency activities that they do. That is interesting. Have they ever announced any partnership with any banks at all to do what they do? Because you talked about the fintechs that they purchased, Fiserv for Pay by Bank, and then credit card Synchrony, Buy Now Pay Later, Klarna. They had someone else, right? And then they switched to Klarna. It was a firm before, or
Oh,
something
they
like
did
that.
have a firm, and I
Yeah.
think I think that they still do use a firm for in-store buy now pay
Mm,
later. So when
okay.
you're at the cash register, and I should try this out, but when you're at the cash register at Walmart, um, I think you have the option to buy now to split that payment while you're at the cash register, and they can do
Yeah.
that point of sale via a firm, but on the
Hmm.
app it's Klarna. I might be wrong on that, but they announced a firm first for point of sale, and then they announced Klarna for their OnePay app. But
Hmm.
going back to bank partnerships, they do have one partnership with Coastal Community Bank, which powers OnePay.
Okay.
And I'm not sure when they formed that. I'm guessing after they bought Even
Hmm. Okay.
and
Yeah,
One,
no, that makes sense. That
like
makes
came with
sense.
one.
What do you think they will be in next? You talked about agentic commerce. Agentic commerce is definitely something that's top of mind for a lot of people as they talk about going into 2026 and beyond. Especially Tiffany recently published a report that talked about the front end, right, for
Mm.
consumers. Where are the consumers going? They're not going to the bank app to ask questions. They're going to LLM to ask questions. And, we see all of these partnerships forming between the big tech companies with various organizations. And it's not hard to imagine as they initiate the inquiry with some of the big tech firms, they will complete the purchase within, ChatGPT or Gemini and what have you. Now, where does Walmart play with that? Because don't they have what is it called? Sparky, something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
Sparky is their LLM. Yeah, I mean it's
But
I
it's
think
not doing anything
an
there, right?
in-house LLM. It's
Okay,
not what? Sorry.
I haven't heard much about it.
No, it's essentially in their app. So
Ah,
when you're buying groceries in the Walmart app, when you're ordering groceries online, I should say, um, they can do like smart substitution preferences, or you could ask it like, I need baking powder for this recipe, but my store is all out of baking powder. What can I substitute for it? And then it can list some ingredients. So it'll be like, baking
hmm.
soda, flour, all that, and say, here's the combination you're going to use. Here are the items that you can put in your cart. Um, so it's LLM like, and I think it's built in house. I haven't really tried it that much, so I don't know how powerful it is or where its limitations are. But they don't really advertise it, like you're saying. Yeah, it's not that
I
well
haven't
advertised.
heard much about it. Um, but think about all these other activities that people do on the app or people interact with Walmart on. They know they know about your preferences and what you do. They know about what you buy. They know about your purchase behavior, your household's purchase behavior. They know about your potentially how you are doing financially. Are you using buy now, pay later? Are you paying everything in one? What payment means you use? They can do a lot of that. They can do a lot with that information, can't they?
Yeah. Well, and to your point, that's not just data, it's information. So, and it's real time too. So banks have, in a sense, they have real time data. They have transaction data, deposit data, balances, credit behavior, things like that. But Walmart, first of all, they have that level three data. So they not only see that, I made a purchase at Walmart for $100, but they see every single thing that I purchased in there. So it knows what you purchased, how often you purchase, and like you're saying, your household composition. So who lives in your house? Are you buying diapers? Are you buying,
Buying pet
14
food.
year old clothing? Yeah, a lot of cat food. If you have a cat, if they know that your cat's really fat, yeah.
She loves food. Yeah. Oh my
The
goodness.
brand loyalty, they know about, your health patterns because they have that urgent care services, the vision care services, the life stage that you're at. Are you buying home furniture or things like that? Seasonal spending. And also, one of the most interesting things, they know your inventory as a consumer. So we think about inventory for banks a lot. So they know, you just ordered toilet paper last week on the 7th, and here's how many people, are in your house. You have a 4-person household, and so we estimate that you only have this many rolls left, and so you're going to need toilet paper on this date based on that, and so we'll start maybe advertising toilet paper on that date.
Oh
So
my
that's really
goodness.
powerful information, and banks don't have that, right?
You're
That's
right. You're
yeah.
right. And that also helps them control their inventory and the supply chain as well.
Mm.
And it helps with their negotiation power and everything. So it goes upstream as much as it also go downstream. And it goes sideways with financial behavior and everything else.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's behavioral. So they have all that behavioral data, which they don't just have financial data. They have behavioral data. And I think that that beats out financial data in a lot of cases.
wow.
So, yeah.
I I would say in some ways that's even more powerful than Amazon. Because a lot of the Amazon until now, right, when they have Whole Foods component, but until now everything is digital, so it's already self-subscribed to a particular group of people. But
Mhm.
with Walmart, you have both digital and in store, and the reach is crazy high when you add all these auxiliary services, which Amazon doesn't have access to. Um, what do you think they will do next? I'm curious to hear.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to be doubling down on that agentic future and translating that behavioral data into essentially what they can influence. So kind of like what we were just talking about before. Because as far as I know, I don't think they do that right now. I don't think they're estimating my toilet paper usage that I've noticed. So, but essentially, yeah, they're going to become,
But
um,
they can if they want to, right?
yeah,
For
oh yeah. I mean, the
inventory,
data's
supply
there.
chain.
Yeah,
Hmm.
everything's there. So that's there. And then looking at an agentic commerce future, I think, like we said earlier, they will have all of that data and they will have already been established as the consumer's, number one touch point for all of these products and services, so that when a consumer has an agent making purchases and making decisions on their behalf, the agent will, perhaps default to Walmart for a lot of these decisions or a lot of these products, a lot of these services. Um, and that is how it will have made its decision, is because the consumer already made the decision for it, because that's where the consumer has historically gone. And so for Walmart to essentially secure those agentic relationships before agentic has even launched is pretty powerful. Now, there's a lot of unknowns about agentic commerce, so that's a little bit out there, um, but I think it is. Uh, it's speaking to AI agents before they even exist and bringing them in. And payments will become secondary, because agentic AI, it'll, essentially choose the payment method, the best payment method based on the transaction for the consumer, based on, what's in their account, what's in what account, what kind of banking relationships they have. So the banking relationship or relationships will be secondary as the AI kind of chooses which payment method to use based on that. So that's yeah, I think
And
that's where it'll go next in the agentic future that we don't quite have yet.
one of the things that we haven't mentioned, which is implied, is trust, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
consumers, they go there. This is part of their everyday lives that they go to get services, to get groceries, to get things for every part of their life, as you say. There's brand trust and brand loyalty. With that, coupled with all of the information that they have, coupled with the eyeballs that they have, lack of better words, they already have the upper hand when it comes to negotiation. When you want to be talking to whoever they're going to be partnering with for a future where the front end is abstract, and people, let's say we all go to a chatbot to go shopping for, they have that outsized presence that I wouldn't be surprised if that will give them outsized negotiating power for
Mm.
when they do work with these agents, third party. They'll be like, well, perhaps there is an incentive to be made there for OpenAI to send more traffic to specific downstream sites based on ease of use, based on price, based on etc. Right? Factors that are not disclosed. That's one of the things that's always curious is, it's a bot, but how does information surface to consumers as they ask a query to a bot? It's just like when we type in something for Google search, what makes things rank? And I think that's going to be the next battleground.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to see whether or not or how that will be regulated on behalf of consumers, because consumers don't really have that much control over it. So that'll be the interesting
Did you
thing.
say regulation, Julie, in the next 3 years?
Yeah, yeah,
That it will be interesting to see if there is any regulation at all. At the time of recording, I think there are a lot of news going on with regards to specific M&A cases and hostile takeover. So in a different part of the industry, let's say. So I think regulation is definitely top of mind. What consumers choose, especially given the current economic environment, I think that will be telltale sign as well with regards to how successful they will be. But that's why banks need to keep an eye on Walmart, right, Julie? That's what you always tell them.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, Walmart, has that high frequency engagement, and now it definitely has the rich behavioral data. They even have reward systems based in the OnePay app. Obviously, those embedded financial tools within the OnePay app, that's in the Walmart app. Household level insights, all those things that banks don't have, so they can essentially risk losing their mind share, primary relationships, payments volume, credit card dominance, their data advantage that right now they have, as JP Morgan Chase knows and is guarding like crazy, and that trust advantage as well, which I will say for banks, I mean, maybe at the end of the day, when we talk about trust and we talk about our data, maybe banks have that to their advantage, that if they can hold on to and maintain that trust and guard that, position it saying, agentic AI is out there making payments on your behalf at Walmart. Perhaps if banks hold that trust, then that is where where consumers will put their primacy, where they'll put their relationship and their trust. And maybe they won't, want their AI interacting with Walmart directly. Maybe they'll want them funneling through their bank first. But I don't know.
That could be. Or another potential scenario, they do offer savings, right? Do they have savings?
They do. Yeah, OnePay does.
OnePay?
Yeah.
So what if, right? What if there's a lot of talk about silent attrition, right? Where the primary bank that you have is where you deposit your paycheck, but it doesn't stay there. It somehow leaks and goes into all these other financial relationships. There's nothing to stop consumers who, because of their daily need that they need, to go shopping, to do all these other things, or perhaps because if they see a higher yield with their savings with OnePay versus what they have with their primary bank, what's to say, they might divert the bulk of that money incoming paycheck into a OnePay. I think next year is going to be super interesting. Maybe it will be time, give it another 6 months. It'll be time to revisit Walmart or perhaps another big brand. Until then.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Julie. This is fun, and I know that you'll definitely be writing about it soon. I have a feeling. And thank you. And until then, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of One Vision. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.